Hello, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services sales executives for our video message of the week. All right, we are going to start a brand new series, and this series is entitled Enhancing and Protecting Your Business. And the first topic that we're going to cover in that vein is called expectations. Now, let me start off by asking you a question. How many of you love selling the same listing over and over again because it continues to fall out of escrow? Or selling a buyer another house and another house and another house, not additional sales, but the same sale because that escrow falls out? Not good. In fact, what you're really doing is reducing your commissions because you're working for the same money, but you're doing transaction over transaction over transaction. Wouldn't that be a good thing to minimize? I mean, with all said and done, we would love to sell one house, close that house, and if they want to buy a second one, that's great, but it's another new deal. All right, that's what today is about. And I want to talk about a sensitive subject, but it's so important, and it's this concept of setting expectations. I will tell you right now, you, as the real estate professional, are the only one who can effectively set good expectations. And this is at your own peril. If you choose not to set needed expectations, you will run into challenges, problems, block walls that, yes, you might justify and blame on other scenarios, other situations, other people. But I'm telling you right now, look in my eyes, it's you. As always, we've learned this in other videos. It's always us. It's never anyone else. So how do we minimize this from happening? We set proper expectations. All right, let me jump in. So let's get into the meat of this. Let's say we're talking about pricing a property. Without going into all the aspects of pricing, isn't it important to set expectations as it comes to pricing? Let's tie into the appraisal. You know what? We don't control the appraisal. The appraisal comes in, okay? We can even disagree with what the appraisal says, but the reality of it is the appraisal is what the appraisal is. Don't get me wrong, we can fight for reconsideration. There's a lot of ideas that we can help. But step one is setting the right expectations, letting the client know that when this appraisal comes in, if it doesn't appraise, we need to have some flexibility there. Don't get me wrong, we're going to push very, very hard, okay, from the purchaser side as well. But keep this in mind, once the appraisal comes in, there it is. Now I know you could say, well, we could sell it again and ignore that appraisal if it's not an FHA and all this other fun stuff, but the reality of it is, let's just start off by setting the right expectations so we're clear. It's what we have to deal with. And remember this concept. You can be very honest and upfront with your client, but don't take the brunt of the negative. How do you do that? Remember this clue. It's always you and the client against the market. Never you and the market updating the client. Let me repeat that. It's always you and the client against the market. Never you and the market presenting to the client. And why that's so important is this. Look it. If there's certain pricing issues or certain challenges in the market, you don't have to agree with them, but you still have to communicate them. So as you go over this with the client, show your vigor on disagreement. I don't think this appraiser is going to come in here and give you the value you deserve. Okay, it's frustrating to me too. Look at the upgrades that you have in this property. They're amazing. I wish they would come in and I hope they would. But be ready, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. So many times it's unfair and they don't give you the value that you truly deserve with all the additional monies that you put into this property. Because eventually, or actually, you end up putting those dollars in for your enjoyment, not for increased value. This is the facts of the market. Don't take and put that on your back. Understand it and communicate it, but don't own it. That's a big difference there. Sometimes we fall into that trap of saying, we need to let them know. You will let them know, but just don't own the aspects of it. Let's talk about repairs. This is such a big one. You know, this idea of repairs and then transactions falling out because of certain repairs needed. First of all, the seller needs to understand that all systems need to be operating. They need to be operating. And I'm not talking about an as-is offer. If it's an as-is offer, different scenario. But even then, set the proper expectations. Even in an as-is offer. Can a buyer be surprised and then come back and ask for something additional? Of course they can. It's called negotiations. Some cultures negotiate all the way through the transaction even after things have been signed. Set those expectations. You know what? Surprises are good on your birthday, but in a real estate transaction, we don't like surprises. So don't let your client get surprised. Lay that groundwork so effectively when these things happened, you've already had the discussion. Remember we went over this. Remember we talked about it. And here's where that flexibility we discussed comes into play. This will be in loan qualifying. You know what? You're going to do your very best to pick a good qualified purchaser to go into escrow with. Because certainly you don't want to pick an unqualified or a maybe, because if you do that, again, it has a higher percentage chance to fall out. You don't want that to happen. So you're going to do everything you can to make sure that you're dealing with a qualified buyer. But still, set those expectations. There can be things that the lender does not know. Okay, that's again why you want to deal with a lender that asks all the key questions. Okay, our relationship is with Freedom Mortgage. Sit down and talk to them, even if it's upfront to help you present the proper expectations. You just want to say, you know what would you advise that I say in these types of situations so the buyer is well informed and I've set effective expectations. So if this actually does happen with a purchaser, we're ready and we've discussed it. Okay, last but certainly not least is timelines, important timelines. Listen, okay, we all want to close on time, if not early. But the way we set those expectations and deal with our clients and all that, it matters. I'm not saying not fight to close early. What's the old saying? Nothing comes good out of an open escrow. Okay, so we want it to close. But the reality of it is, okay, we need to set those proper expectations with timeframes. So if there is a glitch in some way, shape, or form, we don't get anyone riled up. We deal with it. I know it's very difficult many times when you deal with realtors, many times in other organizations that maybe have not had all the training that we would like them to have. It is what it is. Set that expectation. Let the client know. That's why we go through the education that we do. So you are forearmed and they are forewarned that, you know what? We're not dealing with everyone with the same expertise. And that's why they have you. Setting effective expectations is key to enhancing and protecting your business. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.